Today's topic is
understanding color.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to WAYPN. I'm Cal.
And I'm Sunny.
Today we'll be covering how to make your colors read better.
What does that mean?
We'll explain in just a minute. First, what are we covering today?
Midtones, skin tones, black and whites, and metallics as textures.
Let's get to it. Reading color.
Reading is a particular interpretation of a text or a situation. So how do you read color? Naturally.
As mentioned on our previous episode, Understanding Hyperreality, the ability to see light is the greatest evolutionary advantage one could have. It has been independently evolved by many creatures. We see light so naturally we don't even think about it. So why are we talking about color when we're talking about light? Because the two of them are the same. When we see a color, it is the wavelength of light that is reflected from that object that allows us to see that color.
So we read the color from the wavelength of light, which is fantastic as a survival mechanism. However, as an artist, this makes things difficult because you want the colors to read a certain way, but it doesn't turn out that way. Why is that?
We read light, color, so naturally that it's like trying to understand how to walk. We don't understand how to walk, we just walk. A lot of what we're about to say is going to sound obvious, because it is. But hopefully soon you'll know how to walk.
Walking in this case is understanding color, if that wasn't clear.
Let me be clear.
Oh.
Midtones.
When most people are painting, they will have at least 3 colors to paint that particular color, which will be the shadow, midtone, and highlight colors.
Games Workshop or Warhammer often don't explain things this way because they strongly encourage the use of washes rather than painting shadows naturally.
In this case, the washed base color is the shadow color, the base color will be the midtone color, and the highlight, sometimes this will be a layer paint, but not always, will be the highlight color.
One of the easiest ways to level up your painting ability is this. Paint without using washes or contrast paints or any products that allow the paint to seep into the recesses. Painting your shadows and highlights naturally will allow you a better understanding of lighting.
So the midtone should be the majority color, but some of the times people get too excited with highlighting or they go far too deep with their shadows, and this is where most errors occur. There is a simple and easy rule to follow.
Is the midtone the majority of the color you are painting?
If yes, you're doing it right. This can apply for what you are currently painting. It doesn't have to apply to the entire model itself. This is how you make sure the color reads as the color you want it to be.
Skintones. Skintones are different and require special attention. Why? Because we're human and we pay special attention to human characteristics.
Miniac did a segment on this, and skin is mostly made up of highlights, unlike other materials. While there is shadowing in skin tones, it is very minimal. The difference between your midtones and highlights are much closer together. With skin, the shadow and highlight colors can have a lot of varieties, but the actual tonal difference is very minimal.
Sunny, can you explain tonal difference?
So tones basically are the different shades of a color. So it's exactly what we've been talking about this entire video. Your shadow, your midtone, and your highlight, but they're all one color. So with the tonal difference, you wouldn't have as much a stark difference between your shadow, midtone, and highlight.
So for the layman, if I could break this down, the difference between colors won't be as stark. So your dark won't be as dark usually, but you're going to have more varieties between those darks and between those lights. Is that right?
Yes.
So a quick rule with skin tones would be something like your highlight color should be your majority color?
Yes.
I said a quick rule, not a good rule. Learning and mastering skin tones is going to take a lot more effort than anything else because humans pay special attention to human characteristics.
A good place to get references for skin is taking a look at makeup articles or even editorial pictures of models. Sometimes if you go into Pinterest, they will also have pre-made swatch guides of skin tones for you to go off of.
So what you're saying here is go outside of the miniature hobby.
Exactly.
If you're just starting out, a good place to start is your own skin tone. You know your skin tone better than anyone else, and you have an instant and immediate reference on you at all times. Now for a smooth transition.
Hello there, smooth skin.
Black and white. Black and white are special, unlike skin tones, where we just pay special attention to it. Black and white aren't colours because they have no wavelength of light attributed to them. Black absorbs all colour and white reflects all colour. Black and white are particularly difficult to master.
It also doesn't help that these are the worst colors in Games Workshop's paint range, notoriously so.
No, Sonny, think of the copyright.
And yes, we will be calling them colors for convenience.
Black and white are particularly difficult because people start with their end points and quickly discover they've got nowhere to go.
So you've painted white. How are you going to highlight now? Or you've painted black. How are you going to shadow?
You must treat black and white as the absolutes that they are. When painting white, white must be your final color, must be your final highlight.
You want to start out with light grays, but much like with skin, white is the same thing. White should be your majority color, or else it'll just look gray.
When painting black, black must be your final shadow.
But with black, the painting ratio is the opposite. Black will be your majority color, and your midtone and highlights will be deep grays.
Now, there is a particular reason why we ragged on Games Workshop's white and blacks. That is, if we got to keep the joke in and it wasn't removed for copyright reasons. For the majority of my painting, I actually use the Citadel color range. However, black and white are a particular sore spot in this range.
Ceramite white is known to be very clumpy. It's one of the few paints that was removed from the range.
And their current whites are known for separating quite badly.
Most of Citadel's colors have a semi-satin finish, which helps to make the miniatures pop.
This is why Abaddon Black is an aberration.
Because it's not a semi-satin, it's more of a gloss black.
And Corvus Black
is like a really deep grey, charcoal black at best.
Now, we're not saying this just to be down on Games Workshop because, like I said, the majority of paints that I use are Citadel paints.
If you want to improve at painting black and white, you need to explore outside the Citadel range.
Flat blacks are one of the best places to start. Without the addition of a satin, semi-satin or gloss finish, your control over the colour will be far greater. And for whites, consider taking a look outside the hobby completely. Products such as Artist Spectrum Ink White have gotten me far brighter whites than anything else and allowed me to highlight whites from our hobby range.
We recommend Brushstrokes painting guides on how to paint black and white. They're really easy to follow along.
They put this theory into practice better than anyone else that we have seen.
The links to his videos will be in the description.
Metallics. Metallics are a texture, a material, not a colour. Sonny, can you explain why this is important?
In traditional art, the way to express metal as a texture is through non-metallic metal techniques. We need to show the reflective surface of metal through gradients and sharp highlights and shadowing to be able to show how it's very reflective.
When it comes to painting metal, the ideas are no different. The techniques for painting true metallic metal and non-metallic metal are exactly the same. The only difference is the paints which are used.
With metallic paints, it doesn't matter if it's Citadel or other brands, they contain mica flakes, but it's all about the density at which the mica flakes are packed into the paint. With Citadel paints, the mica flakes are larger and more spread apart, giving it a more sparklier finish, but with other brands like Scale 75, the mica flakes are much more finer and densely packed, giving it a more reflective effect.
This is something to keep in mind when going between brands. It doesn't necessarily mean that either one is better than the other, but it's something that you must keep in mind when you're painting your model. For example, less reflective brands like the Citadel color range might be good as a base color or shadow, whereas more reflective brands like the Scale 75 may be better as a highlight.
The most important thing to remember with metals is that you need to have very dark darks and very bright brights. So you want to have very dark shadows and switch to much brighter midtones and highlights very quickly.
This is where you gave me the criticism that my golds looked closer to brasses because of how dark I made them.
Yes, they didn't have enough mid-tone or highlights to make them look more like gold.
Essentially, this is the risk that you run when painting metallics. Well, you might just get the color wrong when it comes to other things. When painting metallics, you are showing a completely different material if you highlight and shadow incorrectly. Gold is relatively useless as a shield. However, brass, that's a different story. So if your guys got brass medals and gold shields, you are going to be breaking that feeling of reality that we pointed out is so important in our last video.
Shall we wrap up?
Conclusion. Number 1, if reading color is so easy, why is it so hard to paint it?
Because we see light very naturally, we're not consciously aware of how we do it.
We don't know how to walk, we just do it. Number 2, what's our lesson from Midtones?
Midtones should be your majority color or else it won't look like what you want it to be.
Number 3, what's our lesson from Skintones?
Highlights should be your majority color in this case.
And it's going to be harder to perfect because we pay special attention to human characteristics.
Yeah.
Number 4, what's our lesson from black and white?
Black and white are the absolutes of the extreme ends. You have to treat them as your darkest color and your brightest color, and the midtones should be grays.
And Citadel might not be your best paint range for this. Number 5, what's the lesson from metallics?
Metallics are a texture, not a color, so you have to put special attention into gradiating the color and also having very dark darks, very bright brights, and moving towards each very quickly.
Alright everybody, have a fantastic week, and remember to keep those brushes wet. Bye-bye.
Honey, look at this. You said reading color is easy, right?
I know what this is. Don't do this to people.
You said reading color was easy.
This is a war crime.
Read it! Read
It's
it now.
cruel and unusual punishment. They've just learnt about how to read color, how to understand color. Don't do this to them. Don't do this. This is wrong. This is wrong.